Frank Reich. Wow, have the Panthers been dreadful or what this season? Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for the Panthers. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Frank Reich as he made recent remarks on his owner, David Tepper. With the Panthers being the only winless team in the NFL this season, there are now calls to fire Frank Reich as most of the fan base has turned against him. It also has not helped that Bryce Young has been struggling a lot more than what was initially expected out of him. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. How much should Panthers fans panic right now? Honestly, the answer needs to be a lot, and that's honestly not even enough. The Panthers fans in general, they need to go ahead and start screaming their heads off and start realizing that disaster is about to strike in the Carolinas. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much should the Panthers panic? It needs to be at a 10, it needs to be at 100, or it needs to be at 1,000, maybe even 10,000 or 100,000 out of 10. The point is the scale should break. Panthers fans should be in big time panic right now. I mean, this is a disaster waiting to happen for the Carolina Panthers. And honestly, who couldn't have seen this coming? Sure, you could have said that the Panthers were supposed to be better than this coming out of the offseason. But when you look at the Panthers front office and ownership, you have to realize that they are on two completely different pages. You got the head coach, Frank Reich, who won one quarterback in the draft class, and then you got the owner, won a different quarterback in this draft class. I don't care what Frank Reich is telling you. Frank Reich is sitting up here telling you that, oh, they all agreed on taking Bryce Young and that they were all under the consensus that he was the best quarterback in this draft class. Yeah, right, Frank Reich. I don't believe you for a split second. Why I believe in you, Frank Reich, is that you wanted CJ Stroud. I looked at your face during CJ Stroud's pro day. You look like you had a guy crush on CJ Stroud. That's how much you fell in love with this game. And I don't blame you for feeling that way because I felt the same way. As a Panthers fan, I wanted us to take CJ Stroud with the number 1 overall pick. I felt like CJ Stroud was going to be a superstar at the NFL level. I said that CJ Stroud was going to be the next Joe Burrow and that the only differences between CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow was the fact that Joe Burrow was white while CJ Stroud was black. If it was not for the different races, they were basically the same player. You could say that CJ Stroud was basically a twin of Joe Burrow. That's how good CJ Stroud is. CJ Stroud is accurate, he's poised in the pocket, he can throw it downfield, does a great job not turning over the football, and most importantly, he fits Coach Reich's offense. Coach Frank Reich is a prototypical guy that likes taller passers, that like to be able to stand tall in the pocket, be able to deliver the intermediate passes all over the field, also be able to use the tight ends heavily, and being able to spread the football around. That's what he did in Indy. That's how he got his offenses to thrive in there. That's how the Philadelphia Eagles were really good offensively under Frank Reich back when he was the offensive coordinator. And this is the worst possible kind of quarterback that Frank Reich could have gotten for Bryce Young. I'm not saying that Bryce Young is the worst quarterback in NFL history, but what I am saying about Bryce Young is that he was vastly overrated coming out of Alabama. All these people talking about how he was going to revolutionize the NFL and how he was going to be an awesome pick for the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, right. Look at Bryce Young for an example. He's 5'10", he's barely over 200 pounds, and I get that size isn't the only thing that matters, but that's not my only concern with Bryce Young. When you look at Bryce Young's play style, you have to think, oh my goodness, man, this dude is not even fast for his size. He doesn't throw a great deep ball. Actually, the truth is he refuses to throw deep balls. You also have to remember the fact that Bryce Young is not a great passer intermediate-wise. Did you guys know that Bryce Young's longest completion in the NFL so far is 30 yards? Yes, you guys heard me correctly. 30 yards, and we are 4 games into Bryce Young's NFL career. I know the Panthers have already played 5 games this year, but Bryce Young has already missed 1 game due to an ankle injury. When you watch Bryce Young play, it is incredibly frustrating to watch the guy painfully try to move his team down the field because he doesn't have a great arm. And also his decision making is a lot worse at the pro level than what you would have expected out of Bryce Young coming into the NFL. Bryce Young has had a turnover in each of his 4 NFL starts. Bryce Young was promoted as a guy that could be a solid game manager, worst case scenario, but Bryce Young hasn't even been that. Bryce Young has low-key been garbage. And I know that somebody's going to say, oh, Bryce Young, he doesn't have any weapons whatsoever. The coach is failing him. The organization is failing him. He has nobody to work with. But he has Adam Thielen. He has DJ Chark. He has Jonathan Mingo. He has Miles Sanders. He has Chuba Hubbard. He has Hayden Hurst. Okay, I'm not going to say his weapons have been good, but they're not necessarily awful. They're not the Houston Texans level bad, where Nico Collins is their wide receiver 1, and you're seeing CJ Stroud ball out for the Houston Texans with a bunch of no-namers, a wide receiver for them. When you look at the Carolina Panthers, you look at this roster and you're thinking, how has this team not won an NFL game yet? This roster is too talented to be 0-5. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's Frank Reich's fault. Frank Reich is the reason why this team is being held back. And I'll say, okay, yeah, that's a fair assessment. I don't think Frank Reich's done a great job coaching this team. In fact, I got my fair share of criticisms for Frank Reich. But when you look at Frank Reich, I'm also more willing to give him a pass because of the fact that he tried to warn people in the organization that Bryce Young wasn't that good of a quarterback. And honestly, most of the coaching staff didn't believe in Bryce Young. Heck, even their quarterback coach, Josh McCown, believed in CJ Stroud big time. I said that CJ Stroud was the second coming of Joe Burrow. Well, you know what? Josh McCown also agreed with me on this. And I want to show you guys this clip of Josh McCown talking about CJ Stroud. It's going to be like a 30-40 second clip. I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to it. Roll the film.
Where I think he is as a player. So physically, without doing the deep dive of, you know, who he is as a person and talking to his coaches and getting to know really CJ Stroud all the way around. Physically, as I watch him, I think his skill set is very similar to Joe Burrow. Okay, I think that would be the guy in the NFL and, you know, fellow one-time Buckeye that I would look at and go, okay, he about same size, same frame, same kind of arm talent, moves the same way physically. So I like that.
There, even Josh McCown just said right there. I said that CJ Stroud was the next coming of Joe Burrow. And Josh McCown, the quarterback coach for the Carolina Panthers, said that he was the next coming of Joe Burrow. I mean, come on. If you're comparing somebody to Joe Burrow, that means you obviously have interest in taking them with the number 1 overall pick. CJ Stroud was a special quarterback prospect coming out of Ohio State. And a lot of people wanted to tell me, oh, CJ Stroud, he can't run. He's too slow. He can't do this. He can't do that. And people forgot that, hey, hello, accuracy is the most important thing in a quarterback if you don't have athleticism. And CJ Stroud's accuracy is elite. CJ Stroud had all the tools to be a successful quarterback. Even the quarterback coach, Josh McCown, said it. And I believe that Frank Reich wanted CJ Stroud as well. You look at all the quarterbacks that Frank Reich has worked with throughout his career. He had Carson Wentz, who was relatively well in Philadelphia, who also had a really good year under Frank Reich, minus the 2 games at the end of the year in the 2021 NFL season. He also got a washed up Phillip Rivers into the NFL playoffs. He also got Andrew Luck to win comeback player of the year. He got Jacoby Brissett to 7 victories at quarterback. I mean, you look at the resume of Frank Reich and I'm thinking, man, this Frank Reich guy, he knows how to get the most out of his quarterbacks. So if he was able to be successful with Carson Wentz, with Andrew Luck, with Jacoby Brissett, with Phillip Rivers, okay, you look at all those quarterbacks that he was successful with, why has he not been able to get anything out of Bryce Young? And the truth is, Bryce Young does not fit Frank Reich's offense whatsoever. I don't care what anybody is telling you. Frank Reich's offense predicates using the tight end in the offense, but Bryce Young is not that type of quarterback. Bryce Young is the kind of guy that needs to go up in shotgun, line up 5 wide sets, call a lot of WR screens, call a lot of quick game concepts. He's not going to be the kind of guy that's going to hang around the pocket and drill passes over the middle of the field. That's not who Bryce Young is as a player. That's not what he's ever going to be. That's not his skill set whatsoever. And the fact that David Tepper forced the Bryce Young pick on Frank Reich, that is a fireable offense in and of itself. I mean, that is basically committing malpractice. You cannot have a quarterback that does not fit the coach's system whatsoever. And Frank Reich, you can clearly tell that he has no belief in Bryce Young whatsoever. And I don't blame him because I don't have belief in Bryce Young either. Do I think Bryce Young might eventually be good one day? Maybe. I think that's a reach to say, but I could see that happening. Maybe he has an Alex Smith type of career. Maybe he can turn out to be Teddy Bridgewater, where he can be a solid game manager. But I don't ever see Bryce Young being the superstar quarterback that the Carolina Panthers gave up the farm for. I'm sorry, I just don't see it in Bryce Young because he doesn't throw a particularly great deep ball. He's not good with the intermediate passes whatsoever. I get that Bryce Young is a highly intelligent football player, but so was Alex Smith. So was Teddy Bridgewater. And look at what happened to those 2 guys. Those 2 guys were nothing more than solid game managers on their best day. And you don't take that with the number 1 overall pick. When you have a chance to take a game changer like CJ Stroud, you do that 10 times out of 10. And Frank Reich knew it. That's the sad part. Frank Reich knew that CJ Stroud was going to be a great quarterback in the National Football League. I knew that CJ Stroud was going to be a star in the NFL. The only thing that is going to fail CJ Stroud right now is the Houston Texans. That is because they are mentally incompetent themselves. They are no better, no worse than the Panthers. It's just the difference was they didn't get the pick first, and that's how they landed with CJ Stroud instead of Bryce Young. I mean, damn. I wish that I was a Houston Texans fan right now because they lucked into CJ Stroud. Unfortunately, my Panthers were the ones that got the number 1 overall pick because we decided to pull off that trade with the Chicago Bears, and we landed a 5'10" quarterback that's not even particularly fast with his feet and doesn't throw a great deep ball. When you look at of Bryce Young, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this guy has so many physical limitations. He can't line up under center. There's a lot of things that he can do. I mean, there are some things that he can do well, but that's not what you focus on when you take a guy number 1 overall. When you take a guy as high as Bryce Young, you want to invest in guys that are able to throw the football downfield and have physical talent. You want to have factors that make you say, wow, I can't coach that. I can't teach that. And Bryce Young doesn't have that. My final point to Frank Reich's troubles in Carolina are something that he said the other day when he was asked about David Tepper. I want to go ahead and play this clip for you guys. Roll the film.
Talk either Monday or Tuesday after a game, and you know, he's super competitive. He wants to bring a winner to the Carolinas. He's you know, wants it now. You know, wants it now, and pushes me and pushes us to that end. He wants to do whatever it takes and turn over every stone, churn it as much as he has to produce winning football. So I appreciate those conversations. They're always very challenging. He's a super competitive person, and he's not going to sit idly by. You know, there's different philosophies in ownership. You know what I mean? Some owners kind of stay away and don't engage a whole lot. Other owners do, and his philosophy is he's going to engage. And listen, it's only been a short experience, but it's been a really good experience. It hasn't been fun. You know, it's not fun. Those meetings aren't. I wouldn't characterize them as fun meetings, but those meetings make me better, and I trust they make us better.
That clip that I just showed you guys right there, if what Frank Reich is saying is true, then that means that David Tepper has been meddling with the Carolina Panthers roster. And if he has been meddling with the Panthers roster, that means that he was probably the one that picked Bryce Young with the number 1 overall pick. I've already been told by people inside the Panthers organization, or at least people that have been connected to the Panthers organization, that this was a David Tepper pick and that Frank Reich had zero say in terms of who we were going to pick number 1 overall. Frank Reich is not the decision maker in terms of this roster. Scott Fitterer and David Tepper are. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that. So obviously Frank Reich, he wanted a different quarterback. He wanted CJ Stroud. Meanwhile, those 2 other guys, particularly David Tepper, wanted Bryce Young. When you have that kind of situation, you're not going to build a successful football team whatsoever. I don't care who you are. When you have guys that are doing that, you are committing malpractice. Based on what I just said for this entire video, that means the Carolina Panthers are in huge trouble. You could also say the same thing for Frank Reich right now, because he's on the verge of being fired. He's going to be a one-and-done head coach. I don't see how he's going to last past this year, especially if they don't start winning sooner rather than later. So that's why Panthers fans need to be panicking a lot right now, as this is an unmitigated disaster brewing in the Carolinas. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.